Torrey, welcome back to the podcast. It's been a few years, but we'll jump into a lot that has changed for you since then. But how are you doing today?
Hey, Todd. Great to see you and talk to you. Doing well. The sun's shining here in Houston right now, and it's a good Monday to be out there trying to get work done.
Right on. So you were on the podcast back in 2015. You said it was episode 15. I think you were one of the first people I interviewed on the podcast. And we talked about some pretty interesting stuff, but we're not going to rehash all of that because a whole lot has changed since 2015. But just give us a quick introduction. What's your name, company name, and what kind of work do you do, and where are you located?
Yeah, Torrey Hawkins, president and owner of Angler Construction. We're here in Houston, Texas, and really excited to talk to you again and tell you where we've come from way back then to where we are now.
And what type of work do you focus on?
Yeah, so we're a general contractor, and really we've started specializing more in the design build opportunities, and we can go into that a little bit more later. But our primary project types are large industrial, distribution, manufacturing, concrete tilt wall, anywhere from let's say 100,000 feet upwards of 700,000 feet.
Gotcha. So let's spend a few minutes talking about the circumstances under which you started your business and when that was. Take us back to when you started the business and give us a few minutes review of what the situation looked like back then.
Well, the situation was a little bleak, and that was coming out of the financial crisis. I started the business in early 2010. Was working for another gentleman before that was a developer, and we were trying to get an internal general contracting arm underneath that business. Financial crisis happened. Really no development going on, so therefore no reason for a GC under that company. And he and I decided just kind of to part ways, and I took the GC arm. It's something that I had wanted to do, and in the focus times, I thought I would just be a commercial GC that focuses on corporate interiors and doing work for some clients that I knew, and that success on the interior side led us into the ground up market, and the vision from early on in the business has totally switched to where it is today, with ground up vertical construction comprising about 80% of our revenue, and with the probably another 10 to 15 focusing on the corporate interiors.
So paint the picture of what the business looks like today. Ballpark revenue, number of employees, markets you're in, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so we'll do our target revenue for 2023 right now will be somewhere between 200 and 250 million in total revenue. I think we have 55 employees. Some of the interesting things that I've done is we started some self-perform groups within the corporation. We do our own framing, drywall, ceiling installation, hanging doors, painting on any of our and interior finish out projects. And we've also started our own. We have Angler Site Work, which does dirt work, utility installation, water, sanitary, fire lines, all under the corporate umbrella. And that's given us a huge competitive advantage when we're out there chasing projects. One, for the ability to control the quality that we're delivering. And I really looked at where our weak points were in our projects and being able to deliver the quality that we wanted to the end users that we had promised during the contractor interview phase. And that's those two areas where we really found that we were dropping the ball, and our schedules were getting pulled, we're behind, or the finishes weren't there. And I kind of said, well, if they're going to mess it up, why don't we just do it ourselves and do it right? And it's been great to the company.
So a lot of general contractors in my experience, GCs are typically like on one end of the extreme or the other. They're either construction management, they don't self-perform anything or very little. Frankly, most of the CMs and GCs that I worked with were like that. Or there's like, we self-perform everything. I'm curious, what was the process once you decided, hey, we need to do this? Like we need to create a site work. We need to do our own site work, for example. What was the process for figuring that out? Was it did you do a lot of analysis on the front end and then make the decision, or did you make the decision and then figure out how to make it work, or was there a different fundamental approach?
I think it was just more of a circumstance in a situation, and I call it kind of a blessing. And met an individual who came referred to me from a client of ours who had worked at a large plumbing and site work contractor, and that company got bought out, and he wanted to go do something else. So first we brought him in on the pre-construction side to help us with bid analysis, pricing, schedules, and then the more we talked, he's like, well, I can do this. And so then we really looked at it, and that's when we looked at the schedules of saying, hey, now we don't do it on all of our projects. It's got to be on a certain size range that we'll do our own site work and utilities on. But we really looked at it and just said, we're trusting the success of our company into somebody who doesn't care about the success of our company. Like, to me, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? And so you're getting a project up out of the ground, very, very critical path, lots going on with permitting and submitting to the city of Houston for water meter applications and all kinds of things that, a lot of times we were already kind of behind the eight ball before we'd even gotten a project out of the ground. And that's when I really said, let's control our own destiny. Let's deliver what we're supposed to and be successful from the beginning, so we don't have to try to play catch up so much at the end of a project.
Yeah.
So, the analysis was kind of all in my noggin, and just knowing that this is something we needed to do.
Would you say that move was triggered by this guy who came along and presented an opportunity, or were you actively looking for a way to create your own site work division?
No, I mean, it really came about the opportunity of meeting him and somebody who had the success and the experience to be able to deliver it for us.
Gotcha. All right. So let's talk about, once you made the decision, you're going to do your own site work. All that yellow iron is pretty expensive and requires a lot of maintenance and mechanics and trucks and all this sort of stuff. Can you describe in general how that process went of creating that self-performed division? Was it sort of a plan it all out from start to finish before you started, or was it, we're going to just sprint into this and figure it out as we go?
Well, as most things in construction, it was kind of a sprint into it and see how things go, right? And of course, we started it in 2019. COVID comes along, work stops, for new projects, definitely getting put on hold, questioning myself, what have I gotten us into? The old kind of business owner, entrepreneur, like, oh my God, knucklehead, what did you do type of deal, right? But it really allowed us as everything started coming back in the construction industry to be more successful. And I just kind of had the faith that this is something that would separate our company from our competitors. And it was something that we needed to continue to pursue. Also in 2019, we bought our own building. So we had a place to, store equipment, any of the material that we needed, those types of things, which really helped it, continue to be successful. But it was a quite challenging time through 2020 and early into 2021.
Yeah. So speaking of challenges, you've grown the business to $200 million a year. 200 to 250, I think, is what you project for this year, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced during that growth over the past, since we spoke last, the last 8 years?
The biggest challenge is, in our business, anybody can do work, right? You can typically go find construction projects. You can go do those things. Now, the construction industry is the only one that I know of from a industry. You don't know if you're making any money till you're done, right? Like, if you're selling widgets, you know what your cost of goods is, you know what your margin is, you sold that widget, you've made your money, right? Ours is like, Oh, okay, we got a project and we need all these things to happen, and Mother Nature's got to be nice to us, and we hope we have good owners and where they're going to pay us. And the win is at the end of the project, not when you just sign up a contract. So it really took me the challenges of one, finding the right people. People make this business successful. It's not, I do not think it's me at all. It's totally my team that's here, and the ability to understand the data, and use technology to have a current view on where we stand on these projects. Do we have one that's a problem? Jumping on it soon, instead of letting it drag out and trying to have it be a problem later, and really looking, people and data. People and data is the two things that continue to allow us to be successful, and giving everybody that visibility into their projects to know how they're doing at any moment in time.
What are some of the tools that you're using for
Yep.
data?
So we've been on Procore for a long time, and it's got its blessings and its curses and everything else. But the next step was to go from Procore to really get involved in the data that's in Procore. So we spent last year working with them. We have Procore Analytics that goes to Power BI, so we can see, we have a number of different reports that come out on all of our projects on a daily basis. I can look at every project, where are we on our profit, our contingency, where are we in correlation between our general conditions and our overall project completion percentage, and know, oh, hey, I'm under, okay, good, or no, hey, we're burning more out there than we have in the job. We got to pick the schedule up, or we're going to have to figure out where we're going to have to cover those additional costs. And now we're starting to work with another company too, Brick Software, to do some more analytics of the data and the forecasting model looking forward, to make sure we don't have a revenue gap in, say, June or July 2023. All the stuff that was kind of in my head and our controller's head and the PM's head, we're getting onto a screen so we can see it, we can make decisions about it. We can then decide, hey, we don't need to pursue as much work right now because look at our backlog, right? Or we want to work with the right clients, or hey, we need to get a little more aggressive to make sure we have something starting in October this year, right? Because our project life cycles are so long, especially on the design build side, that you spend so much time early on in the pre-construction phases before you even really kind of start making any revenue or profit on them. So we're always trying to look 12 to 18 months ahead to see what the future holds for us.
Now, some people would say, Torrey, yeah, but man, everything's out of my control. I can't control the weather. I can't control the permitting. I can't control the customer making decisions. I can't control the general contractor. I can't control the trades in front of me. So why bother doing all that forecasting? What would you say to them?
You know what I really learned, and I think the overall global pandemic, and I mean, we went in 2020, we were on a huge revenue growth going into that again, and we had half of our revenue gone in a couple days, right? Or let's say in a month, projects getting stopped, these types of things going on, right? I didn't know my numbers as well then. And I really learned during that time, we need to be looking out ahead. We knew how we did on the projects, but we didn't know where are we going, right? And if you don't know where you're going, how are you going to be successful? And all of those things you said, that's just life in construction. And we have a comment, sometimes you just gotta, put on your boots and dig in and figure it out. And you can't use those roadblocks as something that's going to hold you back, because this is what we get paid to do and this is what we signed up for.
Yeah. So there were some challenges you faced as a company to get where you want to be. I'm curious, were there any challenges that you faced as the CEO of the business group that has grown so much? Like, were there any certain points where you found that you had to change, or you had to level up?
Yes, yeah, and really, I learned over the past 2 years. Not, we've always had, starting out, we started with myself for a while, then one employee, then three employees, and you kind of grow. But we were getting to the point, I can't do everything, right? And not that I wanted to do everything, but I felt like I had to oversee everything, right? And I don't know if that was me not having the ability to trust the people that work for me, or living in such of that negative mindset that, okay, I got to find out where things are going to go wrong, right? And I really looked at it and said, let's put that behind. It's time to be a leader and create kind of the vision for the company, and find awesome people that can work here, that will want to be part of the company, that want it to be successful, that take just as much pride in it as I do, and then give them the opportunity to succeed, and help them grow and reward them and show them how important they are to the company. So I really went from kind of one of those guys that felt like he was got his hands in everything and working, in the business. And now I'm trying to be in a position where I can work on the business. And I know everybody says those types of things, but I felt like if this company was going to take it to this next level and continue to grow, I got to have a leadership team. I got to have, a solid controller. I got to have a great VP of construction operations. I got to have all of these people in the right seat, and let them go do it, and check in with them and make sure they're happy and help them if they need it. But, stay out of the way sometimes.
That's a tough one. That's a really tough leap for a lot of people. Frankly, I think it keeps people stuck because they can't let go, or
Right.
they can't. I've seen all sorts of varieties of this where people want to hire an A player, but they're just afraid to, and they just never pull the trigger, or they do hire an A player, but then they chop the legs out from under them and undermine them because the owner has to be the best, and then they end up with no A players, or they end up with a bunch of C players, and they say, there's just no good help out there. Nobody wants to work these days. So it seems to me that ability to let go of things, to not be able to touch, a big jump seems to be when people go from touching every part of the process to handing off part of the process to somebody else. And there has to be somebody else between them and the customer, or somebody else between them and the subcontractors. So I want to talk about some of those systems and processes in a minute, but you've grown the team dramatically. I'm sure you've got some high quality people there. How do you think about finding and recruiting and hiring top quality talent? Like, how is it let's wait until we need somebody approach? Is it, I'm constantly recruiting, I'm like a college basketball coach? Is it like, how do you think about growing your team with high quality people?
You're constantly recruiting, and sometimes, you're right, and sometimes you're wrong in your recruitment process. And that's the challenge of being the business owner. We are very, very slow to hire. And when we start talking to people, we talk and we meet with them, and then we talk again. And I've learned when you need somebody ASAP, you'll usually make a wrong mistake because you're just trying to fill a seat on the bus, right? And getting kind of even a Rolodex of people that you can call on when the time's right, and you talk to them, consistently, and say, hey man, I really want to bring you on, but we're waiting on this project, we're waiting on this, hang with us, do those types of things. That most people, if they want to come to your or my organization, they'll hold on and wait for the opportunity, because they know that then the business owner is making a right decision and not just trying to throw bodies at workload or a problem or whatever the situation is. But it's, we do a lot word of mouth. I think we have a good reputation in our industry here in Houston, from the subs to suppliers to clients, owners, architects, that we do get some inbound, type A, all stars that have come to us. And part of it's just luck. I mean, really it is. You meet somebody and you talk to them and they turn out to be a great person, and you coach them up and you give them the opportunity to succeed. And they did,
Yeah. So let's talk about systems and processes. This is something that we live and breathe around here. So first question is, how important were systems and processes to achieving the growth that you have in the business so far?
Well, I don't think we wouldn't be where we were without those. And I know from my situation, I'm not the best at them, right? Like, I want to go find opportunities and tee them up and let my guys go execute. So really, the leadership team of the division heads, VP of construction operations, and our controller really work together on, okay, here's how the process works. Here's, the bid estimate comes in. How does it get assigned out? How does it go on the bid calendar? All of those things from the first call or email all the way through project completion. Are we perfect? No, we're not. And I'm not going to sit here and say that we are, right? But it's come a very, very long way in getting those, from, okay, who else is looking at the estimate before it goes out? So it's not, one person isn't all on it may be on their shoulders to do the estimate, but then we have a peer review before it gets sent out, and we analyze the subs that we're looking at and those types of things before it gets sent in as a proposal. To our controller doing job cost reviews on a monthly basis with the PMs, looking at the budget, where are areas of concerns. Maybe there's extra money that they found that we can move over to contingency or cover something else that we didn't know, that we missed, or hey, we just want to make the customer happy and we have a little money in the budget. Let's do it, right? Those types of things all the way through, completion. And we kind of joke, one of my VP of construction operations came up, he's got a saying, is it done or is it done, right? Like, are we done, 100% build, punch list signed off, close out the project, move it into inactive, recognize the profit, all the way through, not just getting the CO or getting him into the building. It's really finalizing it and looking at the data, or, so we can make a better decision on the next project, right?
Yeah. So what's, looking back, maybe the past few years, what were some of the most impactful systems or processes you put in place that were critical to your growth? Anything come to mind?
Well, I mean, I think using the technology helped a ton, right? Procore and the systems that have, and outlining that, and they've gone in and created, task lists for each employee, and what are they supposed to do in that situation of, okay, you start a new job, the job number gets assigned, then it goes to this person, then it gets uploaded into our accounting software, and then it does. So that all the way through of how that data passes through multiple people's hands, and using as much technology as we can for that, to make sure that each person is doing it the same way. We brought in Procore trainers to come in and train the people so that every job gets entered the same way into the software, so the data will spit out on the back end looking the way that it'll need to. Everything, our files on the server are all set up the same way. When you start a new job, here's all the way, here's how each folder in that project looks like. So it's set up that if something happens, and life happens to people, right? Or somebody has a kid and they need to be out for a couple of weeks, that another PM knows where to go get that information and can jump right in. And our guys also do a lot of collaboration where they know what's going on in each other's projects, so they can step up and help if need to.
We'll get back to the episode in just a minute. Think about these two questions. First, do you have a clear, actionable plan? In other words, a strategy for your business for the next 12 months. Second, does your team know exactly where you're headed and how you plan to get there? If your business was a road trip, are you just driving aimlessly without a map, hoping you'll get there, or do you have a clear destination and a route? If your business was a football team, are you just running around the field without a game plan, playing pickup ball, or do you have a strategy to win the game, like the pros do? Here's the reality. As the leader, it's your job to create the strategy, and your team is counting on you for that. If you'd like some help with that, for a limited time, you can download our free strategic planning guide. It's the same guide that has helped hundreds of construction business owners gain clarity, set clear goals, and be able to communicate a winning strategy to their teams. In just 60 to 90 minutes, you'll map out your plan for the next year. No more guessing, no more drifting. And it's the first step toward designing the business that you want. In fact, it's the first step in our Systematize Your Construction Business program. If you want to get your hands on that, head over to constructionleadingedge.com/planning, PLANNING, to download your free strategic planning guide. Stop running around in circles. Stop just treading water. Get clarity on the vision and direction of your company. Go to constructionleadingedge.com/planning and download your free strategic planning guide today. Some people would say, man, that sounds like micromanagement. It sounds like the man telling me how to do my job, looking over my shoulder. I need more I can't be boxed in like that. What would you say to those people?
To me, you got to have a skill. You got to have a plan, a framework for success. I'm not telling you how to do your pay apps, but your pay apps are going to be saved here, right? And when we start a job, here's the process we're going to go through to make sure that all of these things are getting done. Is our signage going up? Is our windscreen going up? Where's our OSHA posters? All those things, and trying to make your life easier so you can just execute on it versus going in, oh, where's this and where's that? And I don't know what to do here. It's like, we're trying to work, we're trying to stay lean, but have the framework for success so guys aren't working backwards so much.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's instead of having to remember what am I supposed to do and how should I do this? It's just, I had a professor in college, Dr. Wu, find the right formula and just turn the crank. You just work your way through the list. Personally, I'm glad that airline pilots don't take the same approach that a lot of project managers do on projects, where they just kind of walk into it and take things as they come. I'm really glad to see the pilot walking around doing the pre-flight check, all the checklists. I kind of like that rigor when my life's at stake. So I think it carries over into a lot of other things. Yeah,
it does. It does. I mean, we've ordered massive job boxes, right? And so, hey, you go start a job. Everything's in that job box that you need to start the job and get your trailer set up, right? So when you say, hey, we're mobilized into XYZ project, that job box gets loaded on a forklift, taken out by one of our laborers, dropped off. All this first aid stuff's in there, OSHA's in there, fire extinguishers, hard hats, vests, blah, blah, blah. Everything's in there. And then when they're done, hey, whatever you have left, put it back in the box and bring it back, and we'll work on cleaning up that next box while another one's going out, right? And so guys can hit it with a mindset of success versus, oh, where's this, where's that, I need this, I don't have that type of deal, right? And try to make everybody's lives a little easier.
Yeah, I came up with a term. I realized, man, so many problems, and I spent, I don't know, 20 years managing projects as a owner's rep, GC, trade partner. I realized so many problems come down to these four letters, JETS, just enough to start. We do just enough to get the job started. And that just sets off this domino reaction of chaos. But
right,
we'll do like what you're saying. Let's give them everything they need to finish the task up front. Before they even ask, give them everything they need. Then it just eliminates so much chaos. So let's talk about your role. I've read a lot of EOS books, traction, rocket fuel, and in EOS terminology, there's the visionary, who's like big picture, relationships, big ideas guy, and then there's the integrator, the person who puts all the systems in place. Which of those buckets would you fall into?
No, I'm definitely the visionary.
Okay.
I mean, even the team here laughs a little bit. I'm like, hey, let's go get into this and do that. And they're like, whoa, hold on, time out, but I think that vision, really I learned, okay, what are we good at and what do I like to build, right? And we really went back and said, hey, I enjoy these design builds. I love going and meeting with another business owner who, maybe they make valves, or we have a great client now that does large trailer generator rentals. And, he's like, hey, I bought this land and I want to build a building. And we're like, okay, dude, let's sit down and dig into your operations, right? How does your product come in? How does it leave? Where do your workers come in? And look at all of those things in the project before we've even really gotten into drawings, right? And like, let's build this out so it gives you the best opportunity to make as much money as you can in your business, right? And that's the stuff that I've personally really enjoyed. And I said, well, hey, if this is what I enjoy, let's start looking at doing more of these design build scenarios where we bring in the architects underneath of us. We bring in the engineers, we help them, we do the geotechs, we do the topo surveys. We're doing everything on the pre-construction services for them so they can focus on running their business and we get to build a building for them, right? And we know at the end it's going to be what they wanted because we've been talking to them up front and working our way all the way through the whole project life cycle. So, and that we had to turn away some other work that may have been a hard bid scenario where they sent it out to 5 GCs and its competition's going to be tight, and it's like there's no fun in that. I don't enjoy it. I don't. Not, it's just kind of like a vanilla type of opportunity. And I was like, why do something that personally doesn't get me that excited versus one of these other opportunities that I enjoy and get excited about when I come to work every day.
Yeah.
So that visionary helps steer us to the type of projects that I want us to pursue, that you have a good client relationship in them. You get to stay involved from early on. You get to be involved and keep things from having to work backwards through value engineering and those types of things because the project's over budget, and have those discussions early on, where before, I don't think if I hadn't been that visionary, we would have just been out pricing work, and that shift over the past really 24 months has been it's been very successful. And I think the project managers and the division heads and everybody's seen the kind of the joy that goes along with that, and seeing somebody who's excited about their building at the end. And you were with them day one when they were looking at dirt.
Yeah. So let's talk about your day to day. What are the top 2 or 3 things at the top of your list that you try to stay focused on, or the things that are most important to you?
Yeah. So, the biggest one last year was getting the analytics up and running so we can see everything. So now I'm looking at it at a much higher level. How are we doing? Where are we going? Are there any problems that I need to talk with the VP of construction operations about? Also working very closely with our controller. Where are we on cash flow, billings? Do we have any problem clients that are late, or, those types of things, right? And then I spend a lot of time working with our marketing team on, what's the message we're putting out via social media and email blasts, and do I need to go to something and speak on a panel and do those types of things to get the name out, to try to be leading the company forward, not as heavily involved in day-to-day execution.
I just saw a video from Steve Jobs from like 1997, and he talked about how focus is about saying no. So I'm curious, what are some things that you've started to say no to in the last 12 months that you used to say yes to?
The projects that the opportunities that are presented to us. If I can't maintain the margin that I want, that I think that's going to allow us to be successful, I'm not going to waste our time on estimating the project, right? I mean, there are GCs out there that want to play in a massive volume game and really low fees on the commercial side. And I tried to compete with them a number of years ago, and they kicked my face in the dirt on multiple occasions, right? And so, you learn from your mistakes. And so saying no to some of those opportunities, or, as I kind of call it, a soft no, hey man, I think we're going to be around here. If that's not in your budget, then we're probably not the right guy for you, right? And if all you're worried about is how much can you get that cost down as tight as possible, with no contingency and ability to make customers happy, I don't want to do it. I mean, it's hard to have those conversations, but I would rather have those conversations early than be in some type of battle at the end, right? Battling over every nickel and dime, and trying to change order people left and right. I mean, it's just, to me, there's better things to do with the company and our mindset and everything else.
Yeah. Let's talk about you personally. What are some habits or routines that are important to you? Either something you do every day, every week, every month, every year. Anything come to mind?
Oh, sure. I mean, there's daily and weekly habits, right? I mean, of course, construction is stressful. You got to find a way to eliminate the stress, whether that's I mean, not that I'm a picture of health or anything, but I try to exercise a few days a week just to take the stress level down. I mean, I got a great family, spending time with them. I love the outdoors, so getting to go do things, in the outdoors. I do try to take some time away over the summer to really spend some time with my family. And the team here has allowed me to do that I don't have to be micromanaging them. I can check in, I can talk to them, and some of those places that we get away to, some of our clients are there. And I've picked up opportunities and projects being at some of those places because of the other business owners and those other people are doing the same thing that time of year, right? And so that's a big one to me is to kind of have some time away from the business to think and to plan and think about where we are going and what I want the company to look like.
I want to talk about vision in just a minute, but I want to go back to a phrase you shared just before we hit record, which was something to the effect of, your team says we're clubbing black swans like on a daily basis. Can you explain what that means?
Yeah, I mean, that was one I came up with. Well, and I think it was probably May or June 2020. We've all talked about the pandemic and everything enough. We've beaten that one, but God, we had projects stopping. We had, and then you went from, okay, projects are coming back, and now material prices are going through the roof, and now you can't get permits, and it was just kind of one of those things like what's the next fire that's going to happen today, right? And so we kind of nicknamed it around the office just clubbing black swans on a daily basis, because it felt like all of these things that are supposed to happen maybe in your life, of these random events in the financial crisis and all this other stuff were happening about every other day, and you're just trying to get by and survive. And so that's how we kind of came up with that around the office.
In the construction industry, the default is to have more of an auditor or negative mentality, because we're always looking for what's wrong, right? Always
Right.
looking for what's missing in this scope of work, what the owner's trying to get over on us in the contracts, what this guy's not doing, what's not happening, looking for deficiencies, right? And then on a macro scale, you start looking at, well shit, what's going to happen next? When's the next shoe going to drop? And it can put you in a pretty negative mindset where you're just constantly waiting for bad things to happen, and maybe you only see bad things. How did you keep your team moving forward with all those black swans? And for those of you who aren't familiar, like, what the hell's a black swan? It's like Chris Voss talked about. There was a book called Black Swans. There are these rare events, because most people think swans are all white, but there are some black swans. And a black swan is this event that comes out of nowhere, like COVID-19, the Russia invading Ukraine, and all these other crazy things happening, a shipping container getting stuck in the Suez Canal or wherever that was. Those are black swan events. So when all of these black swans are attacking you guys and you're clubbing them every other day, how do you, as the leader, keep the team somewhat positive and focused on moving forward?
For some reason, I had a comfort level internally that we were going to get through it. I mean, I had plenty of sleepless nights. I had plenty of very, very stressful days, plenty of oh my gosh, what's going to happen? How is this going to work out? And really went to the core values and just had this kind of faith that we were going to get through it. I don't know why. I don't know how. And just said, hey, tomorrow we wake up and we put on our boots and we go back to work. And we're going to keep doing that every day as long as it'll allow us to do it, right? And at some point, things will change, and it'll go the way that we want it, right? And I think the changing in the strategy, the changing in the vision helped us keep that kind of positive mentality, because we started seeing rewards from it, and we started getting the projects that we want, and we started working with the people. I mean, our clients before were great. We still do a lot of work with some of them too, but we all got a lot happier. I felt like because we were chasing projects that internally fulfill us, right? And that's rewarding in itself. And things just kind of slowly continue to pick up speed. And we still have plenty of challenges and everything, but I just think I had to show that that kind of calm and collective leadership between the team and check in with everybody and make sure they're doing okay. And, hey, we'll get through this, and it's going to be tough. And, and you just kind of got to have faith in the whole entire process that it's going to play out. And if you think positive, usually positive things will happen. If you think negative, usually negative things will happen. I don't know if it's just how it attracts itself, but that was, it was very, very hard for me when we were dealing with a lot of challenges, but I knew I had to come into work and put on a smile and pump guys up and hide the internal challenges, and to be a leader, to have that faith that we were going to continue to execute.
Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff. So how do you think about sharing the vision for the future with your company and then getting the team on board with it? What are some practical ways that you share the vision? And the reason I ask is because a lot of business owners, they have their vision in their head and it's really clear, but their team just doesn't seem to be on board with it. Or there's this disconnect. And sometimes the team even gets frustrated when the business owner talks about their vision. So how do you go about articulating your vision for the company and getting your team on board with it?
Yeah, so we and I'm not perfect at it. I'm sure we have challenges and everything else, but I really started doing a lot more and a lot better communication, right, internally. And that's, from our weekly ops meetings to a company-wide staff meeting and now we're starting to, on a quarterly basis, we're sharing the results of, okay, here's what we landed, here's what we built, here's what we're pursuing, and getting everybody involved in the whole project, or really the whole success of the company, right? And that's everything from our laborers to our superintendents to project managers to PCs to controller and accounting to everybody. We're all in this big training room that we built, and I put it up on the screen and talk through it. Last year we did, it was the first one that I'd done, and I don't know why I hadn't done it before. We did kind of a state of the company and said, hey, here's everything. Here are all the challenges from last year. Here's what we're continuing to pursue. Look at the success, look at the profit margins, look at the customer satisfaction. This idea of being one of Houston's premier design builders is paying off. Look at the numbers that we're seeing here, people. And when they see the vision and the reward, the vision and the reward, the vision and the reward, it continues to, get absorbed into their thinking process. But I had to tell some PMs early on. I'm like, hey man, that's not really a job we want to pursue. They're like, wait, what? We've worked with this guy before and everything. I'm like, yeah, but go look at the numbers. Do we ever make anything working from it? Look how much work it was, and those types of things, right? Like, let's not just be busy to be busy. Let's be busy to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious if there was a phase or a couple of phases of growth that were the hardest. I've heard people say when you go from this to this, like when you triple in size, things break, or when they hit this certain point in growth, we really hit a wall. So I'm curious, what was the hardest growth phase? Maybe it was going from one revenue level to another, going from one number of employees to the other. Maybe it was something else. But what was the most challenging growth phase, if there was one that stands out?
Construction is just challenging, period, right? And so I don't really feel like there was a number that was associated with it. I did look at it and go, the team has to improve. And a lot of the guys that were here with us when we were a $10 to $30 million company, we're not the guys that are here when we're, going to be at 200 million and we got 170 million in backlog and those sorts of things, right? So I did, that was some attrition. That was some decision to let some guys go. That was, COVID kind of gave us an opportunity to really keep the A players and kind of, maybe get rid of, cast off some of the ones that I didn't see being with us for a long time. And I really kept a lot of those individuals through COVID and took care of them and made sure that they were, compensated, and they helped out the company a lot too. And so I think just the overall always trying to upgrade your pool of talent that you have working here. To me, it wasn't a number, right? It was just, do you have that mindset that you want to go get more and execute and be successful and keep clients happy, right? And it takes a while to find those guys, and some people still need to be coached on it, especially when we're having a bad day and a customer calls you and you already terse about something else, and you probably don't treat it the way that you should, and then if you do, it's like, hey man, call the guy back and just apologize and say you're having a bad day or you stubbed your toe and caught you at a bad time, right? And most people are pretty understanding about those types of things. So, I mean, I don't have a number, but all I know is that we wouldn't be here without the people that are within the organization right now. Yeah. And that's what's so awesome.
It sounds like as the company grew, the company outgrew some people that you had. What the current people, the people who they got outgrown, what was it about them that wasn't keeping up with the company? Like, for example, was it technology? Was it their capacity to lead a team? Was it what was it about them that made you say they're just not keeping up and the company has outgrown them?
Really, it was their desire. And their buy-in to what I wanted the company to look like, right? And so, it's a work hard, play hard type of environment, right? And you can tell from people when they get burned out or they don't want to do this anymore, or it's too much for them, right? So it's a capacity issue, and you can see they disconnect, they don't contribute, they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, they're finding other ways to occupy their time, and you can see the success in the construction schedules and the numbers, and the data will tell you pretty quickly. And so it's sitting down and having those discussions with people, and hey, you're not getting it done. Is something going on that I'm not aware of? Home front, health issues, something else? No, I'm having a hard time keeping up. Well, the other three guys in the office down the hall from you aren't having that problem. So why is it what's going on here? And, being considerate and respectful, but sometimes you just got to make those decisions.
Yeah. There seems to be two approaches to running a business. One approach is we're going to take the people we have and we're going to fashion a business around them and just do the best we can with what we have. Then the other approach is we have this vision that we want to achieve, and we're going to go find the people that help us get there. It seems like your approach is the latter. Would you agree with that?
That's correct. That's correct. Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Back in our first interview about 8 years ago, you talked about the importance of burning the ships. Like you're just going to take away plan B, and you attributed some of your success to that. How has that burn the ships mentality played a part in your company's growth, if at all, since then?
Well, I mean, I think it has, because I can always communicate and talk to the employees that are here. I'm like, hey man, I was a project manager, I was an accountant, I was laborer, I was everything too. So maybe I'm not in that role anymore, but I know that the battles that you're chasing, and it's me to help you be successful. So what tools do you need to be successful? I mean, we didn't have all these things. We didn't have, everybody having iPads and Procore and Brick software and analytics and all that stuff back then. It was just kind of tee it up and get it done. And at the time, I had to provide food for my family. So you can't, you got to be successful when that's the only outcome that you have, right? Failure is not an option when you need to put food on the table at home. And having people live in that kind of constant mindset of, this is how my success is evaluated and judged, and wanting to be part of the overall team, right? We don't have to live and die by every project now like we used to. So it allows us to be a little more successful and decide on which is the right opportunities to pursue and which ones aren't.
Yeah. I'm curious, do do you feel like sometimes it's your job to create problems, like big, hairy problems for your team to solve and sort of burn the ships and take away plan B?
I don't think I could. I'm sure if you ask them, maybe I do a little bit, right? Maybe that'd be interesting if you did a podcast with the actual employees and see what they say. But
this guy's a
I
maniac.
do think
He's constantly doing
yeah,
that.
yeah. No, I mean, I think I used to do a lot more of it, right? And what about this? And what about that? And blah, 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 blah. And, in my development is always wanting to try to develop as a leader and those types of things is to back up sometimes. Think about it. Sometimes it's like, hey, before you get really pissed, think about it for 24 hours. And, is it that big of a deal? And now I don't think that I do that. Like I said earlier, I want to make sure we're just marching in the right direction. And it's kind of funny. Sometimes I feel like I'm not as involved and especially we have a 2-story kind of building and I'm upstairs and it's like, hey, I want to walk around and talk to the team and what's going on. But then I know it disrupts them, right? Because the owner's coming down and, they want to stop what they're doing. So sometimes it's just better for me to give them their space and trust them to be successful.
Yeah. So as the visionary, if you're like most visionaries, you have lots of ideas, you have like great ideas all the time. How do you throttle that down so it doesn't overwhelm the team? Like, do you do some things to throttle that, or do they just put the brakes on and filter things out? How do you manage that double-edged sword that is being the visionary, having great ideas all the time?
Well, I've definitely done things. I mean, I've worked with and working with a business coach, right? I've also gone to, I have a mentor, just a friend of mine that's in the industry, right? Who's, third or fourth generation GC, huge here in Houston, great individual. And I'm like, hey man, can I go to lunch and like, here's some of the ideas I have. Like, you've lived it. You guys have been fighting it for hundreds of years, right? And he's like, good, bad, don't do that, right? Like, and so I'm like, okay, good, yeah. And so, you definitely got to share some stuff with people outside the organization, because otherwise, if you just do it within the organization and it doesn't get executed upon, they're just like, well, there's one more idea. We're not having to, he's talking and then they'll never follow up on it, right? So in one ear and out the other. So you got to have some resources to talk to individuals outside of the organization to vet some of the things that we come up with within our own brain.
And it sounds like you want to be careful about sharing ideas with people. Is that what you're saying? Like for visionaries who don't have that, are you saying, hey, it's better to don't just walk in and throw out ideas in a meeting and then be frustrated, or because that causes frustration for your team? Are you saying like to take those ideas, go talk to somebody else about them before you share them with your team?
That's what I do personally.
Okay.
And really try to vet those. Is this something we can execute on? Because if you don't, then it's just a dream the owner has, right? Like, and then he's frustrated. Well, they're not living up to my dream and those types of things, right? Like, it's like, okay, here's what I think it takes me to be successful. I talk to other people about it. They back me up, or they say, hey, I don't know if I do that type of deal, right? And then it's, okay, sit with the leadership team. Hey, here's the way I want to go. What do you guys think? And allow them to give some feedback and buy into it and those types of things, right? And then it's like, okay, let's start rolling it out. Who's gonna manage it? Who's gonna make sure it's getting executed upon? What's the follow up? And really talk to everybody through the organization as those are continue to be rolled out.
Yeah, I love that.
You can only have so many of them, right? Otherwise, you're just bombarding people with ideas and questions, and they're like, he's nuts, So
yeah. I've worked for one of those guys where it was just big ideas and then you'd never hear about him again. And then he was probably frustrated that nothing happened, but we were so busy just listening to the next crazy idea, and then nothing ever happened. So yeah, I think that's great advice. So
people become numb. If nothing ever gets followed up, they just get numb to whatever that person's talking about.
Yeah. And then I saw an interesting case study by the FMI Corp. They studied why why do successful contractors self-destruct? And one of the common themes after they studied big successful contractors that went into bankruptcy, they found that too much change was one of them. Constantly changing things, just a constant churn of change. So yeah, definitely want to avoid that. So speaking of advice, if you could go back to 2015 and give yourself one piece of advice, knowing what's coming over the past 8 years, what would that piece of advice be?
Always know your numbers better. And not getting so worried about having to grow the business, right? And pursuing opportunities that probably weren't a great fit for the talent that we had on the team at the time, right? Be okay with the slower growth, but continue to be successful over just, I want to be this size and we're going to grow this much and everything else without having the back end that I have now.
Great stuff. So you got an audience of a few thousand construction business owners and future business owners and leaders. Any advice or anything else you want to share with them before we wrap up today?
All I can say is with anybody in this industry, just keep grinding, stay the course. Tomorrow's a new day. Hang in there. And I always tell people, just do what's right. If it's not right and your gut doesn't tell you it's right, don't do it. I mean, that's all you can listen to. And go from there, right? Don't get so far out over your skis chasing all these crazy things just because you think it's the hot thing to do. Know what you're good at and stick to that. And at some point, the success will come.
Great advice. Great advice. Well, Torrey, it's been fantastic to have you back on here. Maybe we shouldn't wait another 8 years. Maybe we should wait sometime sooner. If people want to connect with you, find out more about your company, where's the best place for them to go?
I would go to our website, www.anglerco.com. Tons of information there. All of my contact information is there. We're actually in the process of revamping all of that. That's kind of one of my big goals for this year is redoing all of our marketing material, our website, to even talk more about what we're doing on the design build basis. But that's a great starting point. And, I can be reached at any time with the numbers that are on the website.
Great stuff. Well, congratulations on your success. Thanks for taking the time to share and give back. This kind of insight it's priceless because very few people share this kind of insight, people who've actually done it. So I really appreciate it. Hey, it's Todd here. And one more thing before you go. Look, if you own a construction business and you want to put the right systems in place so you can either scale it up, maybe you want to step away from it, be able to take a proper vacation, maybe you want to sell it someday, maybe you just want to have more freedom, or maybe make it more profitable, or maybe you just want to get out of constant firefighting mode and make your phone stop ringing all the time. You really have three options if you want to make a meaningful change in your business. Option one is do nothing. Status quo, keep doing the same things, getting the same results. Option two, you can DIY it. You can do it yourself. You can reinvent the wheel. You can read books, listen to podcasts, try to piece together a solution, use trial and error. Or option number three, if you want meaningful change, is to find a proven system that delivers the results you're looking for. Sort of like if you use software for project management or for your bookkeeping, I assume you probably didn't try to code your own software. You found a proven system that delivered the results you're looking for, right? Well, if you're looking for a proven system to systematize your business, we've helped hundreds of construction business owners implement our systems in their business, specifically our nail the handoff pre-construction process in their business. It works for home builders, remodelers, commercial general contractors. It also works really well for trade contractors like electricians, concrete contractors, site, utility, plumbing. And it's part of our Systematize Your Construction Business program. So if you want to see what systematizing your business looks like, what nailing the handoff looks like, and the positive side effects that come with that, then the next step would be to schedule a free business evaluation call with my team. And you could do that by going to constructionleadingedge.com/apply, APPLY, or just go to our website, constructionleadingedge.com, and tap the Apply Now button. You'll learn about the 5-step process we've helped hundreds of people implement to systematize their construction business. Most importantly, you'll get an objective third-party evaluation of your business to answer one really big question. Is your business designed to fail, or is it designed to succeed? So let me ask you this. If your business was unintentionally designed to fail, when would you rather find out? Now, while there's time to do something about it, or later on when it's maybe too late? This business evaluation call is totally free. There are no strings attached, no pressure. And it could be the best hour you've spent working on your business in a long time. So our schedule fills up pretty quickly. So if you're interested, go over to constructionleadingedge.com/apply, or go to constructionleadingedge.com and tap the Apply Now button to book your business evaluation call. Hey, thanks for listening. I hope you got value out of this podcast. If you could take a moment, if you did, and leave a rating or a review or share this with somebody who needs to hear it, I would appreciate it. Todd Dawalt from Construction Leading Edge. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.